Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I'm your host, W.J. Sheehan. Hello, everybody, and once again, may I welcome you to our show. For those of you who don't know me, my name is W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books entitled Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters, 9 volumes available at Amazon in paperback and ebook, and 1 through 8 are in audio format at Audible, iTunes, and Amazon as well. So please go out there and partake of a couple of copies. And if you don't know my brother and co-host, here he is, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm good. How about you, Bill?
Pretty good, pretty good. We're getting a little warmth today. And, you know, I have a little thing about the springtime, Kev. I may have told you this before. I told Paula, my wife, years ago, that whenever I see this robins arriving early, it's a harbinger of an early spring. I think we were talking about this the other day, right?
Yeah, we were. Yep.
So lo and behold, I'm talking to a listener, Isaac, from Florida the other morning, and I'm standing by the back door overlooking the yard and the deck. And so help me, in front of me, dozens of robins start flying around my deck and the bushes and the backyard. So I told Isaac to hold on for a minute, and I called Paula over, just let her see, and she was like, whoa! And so I think we're in store for an early spring, which is okay with me.
That's all right. I told you last weekend that daffodils came up here in my backyard, but since then it's been in the teens. So today it was chilly. It was windy and in the low 40s, which is, relatively warm. But when it's windy, it's still chilly.
Yeah, well, it can't hold on. It's not going to hold on.
Yeah, and for some of our new listeners, of course, Bill's up in New York on Long Island, and I'm down here in North Carolina. So we record this simultaneously together over Skype, but we are about 600 miles apart.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Kev, I wanted to bring something up. Our buddy Rich, loyal listener to the podcast, lives out in Washington, also has a property in Idaho, had sent out some interesting shorts of some tracks he found on the property in Idaho. He's got about 10 or 11 acres around Elmira Peak in Idaho, for those of you who know the area. And he told me that they had about 4 feet of snow around Christmas time. And since then, it melted down about a foot, and the top of it is kind of hard and crusty now. But he had pictures of a couple of trackways, and I talked to him about it. One of them he's uncertain about, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, and, some big feet for sure, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah, but with some melt and pulling in, I don't know exactly the effect of that, but it sure as heck looked like something really big laid these out, and they were relatively in line.
Yeah.
The other thing that Richard commented on was he's got some moose around there. There was a moose sighted by his neighbors on his property. He thought the one set may have been laid down by a moose, but we were talking together and he very astutely pointed out that in 4 feet of snow, there very well may have been some belly drag involved had it been a moose. Certainly a deer. A deer wouldn't have walked in 4 feet of snow.
No, they kind of hop along at best.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And the other thing that I noticed was there was no cutting of the snow, no slicing, if you will, where a foreleg, was dragged through having stepped in from print to print. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. A deer or even a moose is not going to pick every one of its steps completely out of the snow, out of 4 feet of snow, and then move it ahead without touching the snow until it puts its foot in.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed. Now, look, I'm not there. I'm looking at little videos and some stills, but I didn't notice any of that going on. So the mystery is there. What was this? And obviously we and Rich are believers in the Sasquatch. So it's not off the table that he didn't get a couple of good pictures of a possible track. Interesting to note also, he had a drone, but he wanted to get the drone up in the air and try to follow the trackway to its conclusion. But the camera on his drone was not functioning.
Ah, okay.
So maybe next time. But kudos to Rich for staying with us and sending that information out. It was really cool.
Yeah, and the videos, I saw the videos and the stills, Bill, and certainly that part of the country, that part of the world, is a place where there are a lot of hairy man sightings.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and I learn a lot from the listeners, and Rich, as well as many others, he's one such person that I got a pretty good education from in reference to his career when he was a logger. And, boy, that'll open up your eyes to the reality of where some of these cats earn a living. Why they may have a pretty good opportunity at catching up with a freaking Bigfoot. I'm telling you, man. Woo.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. They're out there in the rural parts of the forest.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They're in no man's land. So, my brother, what do we have tonight in our cryptids in the news and other oddities segment?
Yeah, we're going to be going out to Tennessee here in the United States.
Okay.
To Dixon, Tennessee.
All right.
And we're going to look into the werewolf of Dixon, Tennessee.
Wow.
So
sounds
creepy.
sounds like some type of wrestler.
Nope, not a wrestler. Not a wrestler that you ever want to wrestle with, at least.
Yeah, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah. So this story comes out of the Dixon County newspaper, the Dixon Herald. And the legend goes all the way back to the 1860s. And sometimes you'll hear this referred to, or the area referred to as Werewolf Springs, but it's in Dixon, Tennessee.
Wow. Is there an actual location, Werewolf Springs?
That's what they call it. I didn't find it on the map, but it could be on the map. A lot of these places, like Ape Mountain, right out in Washington State, it's there now after the story about the Sasquatch throwing rocks at the miners. Now, if you look on the map, but I'm not sure if Werewolf Springs is there, but it's in Dixon County in Dixon, Tennessee.
Well, maybe after this podcast, somebody's going to put it on the map.
There you go. And Dixon is just west of Nashville, Tennessee. That's the biggest city that's close by. And it's also very close to Montgomery Bell State Park. And Montgomery Bell State Park, for those of you that study cryptids and other oddities, that may ring a bell because it's one of the most haunted state parks in the United States. So lots of weird stuff going on there, including some werewolf sightings.
How do you come up with the designation of one of the most haunted state parks?
They rate them, Bill. You can search on it, and they rate them.
It's unbelievable.
I know. Number of sightings and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it brings in tourists. I'm not sure. Maybe it scares away tourists.
Yeah, let's go have a barbecue today at the Haunted Forest.
No, and then I was looking at this, Bill, and I'm like, Montgomery Bell State Park, we've covered that. And then I was like, I think that's also close to the whole Bell Witch story. And sure enough, I looked, and Adams, Tennessee is where the Bell Witch story took place, where I covered that a few months back. Mm-hmm. And Adams, Tennessee is less than an hour away. So, so it's pretty creepy area of Tennessee.
Yeah, it's like a regional thing.
Yeah, all kinds of weird stuff going on there.
Wow, that is bizarre. Huh.
Yeah, pretty
all
cool.
Right, so
the story goes back to the 1860s, where a local landowner and one of his helpers was traveling by wagon down a country road near where Highway 47 runs southwest of the park today. And they were heading from the present-day Burns area to a homestead near the Harpeth River. So right in this spot of Dixon, Tennessee. And they reported that the travelers were stalked by a wild creature in the vicinity of Dixon. They moved faster and faster trying to get away from the creature, but it was no use. So they ended up abandoning the wagon and ran into the forest in opposite directions. So get this, the creature pursued the person that was working for the landowner, and he was never seen again.
Oh, that is insane.
Yeah, and the landowner heard blood-curdling screams and pleas for mercy from the hired hand, but his body was never found.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Kev, a wagon back then was a highly valuable piece of merchandise.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't just going to run from your wagon. But I'll tell you right now, remember what I always say, folks, always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. And obviously, these folks didn't have it or enough with them.
Your running shoes aren't going to help you.
No. No.
Only if you're faster than the person next to you.
Unbelievable. That is freaking spine-tingling.
Oh, I know. It's definitely a creepy one. And then so after this incident, they formed a posse, right, back in the 1860s. That's what you did. Mm-hmm. And they gathered to find and kill the beast, right? They headed into a clearing where it appeared that the predator frequently hunted. They took a goat and tethered it in the middle of the clearing and broke off in pairs, surrounding the goat and hiding in the trees and bushes around the clearing. And they said that a Sasquatch-like creature entered the clearing and headed straight for the goat. The men fired at the creature and then lit their lanterns to see if it was dead. But the creature and the goat had vanished, along with 2 members of the posse.
Wow. That's freaking unbelievable.
I know.
2 members of the posse disappeared that were armed?
Well, I would assume they were armed. Who knows?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there to kill.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really bizarre.
Yep.
And where did this account come from?
Well, this is all published inside of the Dixon Herald, which is a newspaper there, from the
Wow.
archives of the Dixon Herald.
That is insane.
Yeah, wild stuff.
Yeah, and you have to think, do you buy into the fact that this could have been some sensational story printed even back then?
Well, I'm less likely, like I always say, I'm less likely to believe it back in 1860s, Today, in the era of YouTube, where people will do almost anything to get more hits on their YouTube channel, right? Because it's a money-making thing. I tend to come into everything questioning or a little bit skeptical. But back in the 1860s, you had way more to lose than to gain by telling
just like
stories like
overall
this.
credibility,
Oh, in your whole life. How do you get it back,
Yeah.
You'd be damaged for life if you did something crazy,
And in the 1860s, who knows how many actual printed papers they were able to produce?
Oh, yeah.
Like what was their readership?
Right. I don't think it was huge in Dixon, Tennessee.
No, it was more or less like spreading the word around. What's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of getting the word out there a little deeper than you could by telling the story and going ear to ear.
Yeah, you could shout it out like the old town crier at the center of town, and then everybody would tell one another just by word of mouth. Or you have a newspaper.
So
the newspaper might only be a few pages too, right? Don't forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what would it be? You had to roll it out, roll out the ink, lay out the paper, maybe 1 or 2 pages folded in half.
Right.
This was not the local papers we have today, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So originally they touted as being a werewolf.
Yeah, they talked about it as a werewolf, and in this same story, then they talked about it like as a Sasquatch. I think that's like a modernization, though, but it is more often than not talked about a werewolf or a wolf man.
Wow. Yeah,
so
because
I don't think it's a Sasquatch. I think it's some kind of hairy, weird creature.
Yeah, because back then they wouldn't have known the Pacific Northwest terminology of Sasquatch.
Oh, no. This is in the newspaper here. This is a modern account, reproduction of a historical account.
Yeah, just amazing.
So it gets really interesting, Bill, because one of the theories I came across of the 1860s sightings is that they said that in the late 1860s, a circus train derailed along the railroad track that skirts the southwest boundary of what is present-day Montgomery Bell State Park, right, which I mentioned earlier. And they said several circus animals escaped, including 2 creatures touted as the Wolfmen of Borneo. So Wolfmen of Borneo. And they said all other creatures were recovered except for the Wolfman of Borneo.
That's weird.
Well, it's really weird. But then I went and I researched the Wolfman of Borneo. And it turns out that the Wolfmen of Borneo were 2 people. Granted, they were weird-looking, strange people, which I'll get into in a minute. But they were weird people that were indeed part of the circus and ended up being part of P.T. Barnum's freak show exhibitions.
Was there anything noted about them that would make them cannibalistic or violent?
Well, get this. So they were a pair of exceptionally strong dwarf brothers. Okay?
Okay.
So get out your calculator here. They were each about 40 inches tall.
Right.
And each of them weighed about 45 pounds.
That's small.
That's tiny.
Yeah.
Okay? But yet they could lift like 300 pounds each.
Wow.
So as part of the freak show, they would wrestle with full-size humans and pick them up over their head and throw them and things like that.
Wow, that's weird. I mean, you're talking something that's 3 foot 4 inches tall.
And only weighs 45 pounds.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
even like it's a fire hydrant.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm not buying that what was seen coming out in the field.
Oh,
and
no way. That's not it. That's not it.
Were there any shots fired?
No, not in that one. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's interesting. Like I thought, like the reason why I bring it up is, you know, how you hear like some of the explanations, and we can jump on the explanation, like these wild creatures escaped from the train. But then when I went and researched it on other threads, it's kind of like, no, these two creatures, you know, were people. Yeah, they were weird. And I'll put a picture of them up on our website, BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com, under episode 139. And you'll be like, whoa, those are some weird looking dudes. And definitely strange strength for two tiny guys. And then it turns out, like I read more about them, you wouldn't believe how much money these guys made and how much they were worth. So they said back then, when they were working with P.T. Barnum, they earned approximately $200,000 each in their career. And they said that back then, that was equivalent to $6 million today.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, why would these guys, even in a train wreck or derailment, why would they run away and not be taken back to this lucrative...
No, they're millionaires.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to take up a life in the woods.
I mean, again, when you see them, you'll be like, holy cow, these are some freaky looking dudes.
Yeah.
Especially you'll see in one of the pictures, the outfits they have them in. It's like, what the heck were you thinking? They look a little bit like the two twins from The Shining coming down the hallway. I'm not kidding. Wait till you see the one picture. Oh, and by the way, their names were Wayno and Plutonor.
Unbelievable.
Let's just say my next Labrador Retriever is not going to be named Wayno or Plutonor.
I'll tell you, man, I see some pretty weird-looking dudes going in and out of the hospital.
Well, let me know. I'll say, you'll see this picture, Bill, and you let me know if you see anybody that looks like these two cats.
Wayno and Plutonor.
You might see some wearing these outfits, but they don't look like these two.
I tell you, Kev, I see some stuff in these days and times I never thought I would see.
I mean, I'd say these two look like they're from a freak show, but they are from a freak show.
They are. They are, man. They are. Oh, my God. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Werewolves in Tennessee.
Dixon, Tennessee. Or from Werewolf Springs in Dixon, Tennessee.
And, folks, again, if you know anything or have any knowledge of this area called Werewolf Springs...
Yeah.
It would be really cool to hear from you. So, touch base with us. BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com and hit our contact link, and we'd be awfully glad to hear what you have to say.
And I did put this one on my to-visit locations. I'm not going to go see the goat man on that bridge in Texas at midnight, but, I'll go out and see this werewolf area and this haunted park for sure.
Yeah. Take a little wagon ride?
Well, maybe not a wagon ride.
Start shouting out, hey, Wayno, I'm Plutonor. Oh, my God. Borneo wild men.
That's it, man.
And Kev, Dad used to say when he was stationed in New Guinea that they still had headhunters over there.
Oh yeah.
Back in the days and times of World War II.
Hey, they may still have them on some of those little islands over there today.
Yeah, you don't know.
Not a lot of civilization in some of the. I mean, there's a lot of islands over there.
Yeah.
in those chains, and a lot of them are just untouched by modern day humans.
One of my coworkers, I recall a number of years ago, we were having a conversation about the Philippines, and he was from the Philippines. I think he told me there's around 6,000 islands.
Yeah, some crazy number of them. That's what I mean. I wouldn't want to bet that there aren't any headhunters left over there.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that is freaking bizarro, man. Really bizarro.
Cool stuff. By the way, you mentioned Dad. Today's his birthday.
Yeah, and it's also our anniversary.
Oh, your anniversary. I knew that. I meant to tell you. Happy anniversary.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
And happy birthday to Dad in heaven.
Absolutely.
And Paula is really good with the dates and everything. I'm like, I'll remember a date maybe 40 days late.
Well, come on. I have to kind of remind you when it's your birthday.
That's right. And the funny thing was, like, when Paula and I got married, we went to the local church and had set it up, and it was a small affair, Kev, folks. We had about a dozen people, some wine and beer, and had some stuff catered by a deli, and just had a good night. And but we had a deacon from the local Catholic church marry us on a Friday night. And when I had the meeting with Deacon Sonny, he said, "So what night would you like to do this?" And I just looked at Paula, and I said, "How about next Friday?" And he said, "Okay, that's fine." And I had no idea that next Friday was the 20th, which was Dad's birthday. And so we wound up getting married on Dad's birthday.
I don't know if you remember, but when you called us and said, "Hey, do you want to come up for the wedding?" We were like, "Of course." And I said, "When?" And you said the 20th. I said, "That's Dad's birthday." Yeah.
It's amazing,
Yeah, it's cool.
But
very cool.
That's cool. It was meant to be.
Absolutely. And it was small, but it was special, and it was really nice.
Yeah, and we had a good time. Paula and I had been together for a long time. And I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent. I always considered her my common law wife. And then one day it was just impressed upon me that, make it right or do it the right way. And then we did.
Yeah.
So
all good.
An amazing, amazing thing. Wow, that was a great cryptids in the news segment, Kev.
All right. Gotta love werewolves and wild men of Borneo. Where do you see these pictures too, folks? They're fantastic.
By the way, I did look at the picture from a couple of weeks ago, Kev, of that vampire grave.
Oh, was that spectacular?
Yeah, that is a nasty looking picture. Wow.
Yeah.
And folks, if you go on the website, you click on the segment you want to listen to, and if Kev has posted anything, it comes up then. It's not there when you first look at it. Like, where are the pictures? But when you click on the podcast, go to the episode, and then you'll see what he posted with it.
Yeah.
Well, Kev, I got a couple of shorts here. We'll see how we go with this. A couple of really neat sightings / encounters. And this following one came from a guy named Barry Fitzsimmons, formerly of Vancouver. And this is what Barry and his father saw while they were trolling the shore. So they're in a boat trolling on the shore of Vancouver Island in 1986. In 86, my father and I were trolling the shoreline of Vancouver Island, basically enjoying the morning. The tide was outgoing, which as it occurs gradually exposes some sandbars the further you move through the tide. Now, my dad and I were well familiar with the fact that bears do dig for clams, having seen numerous bears doing so through the years in the region. So to see one doing so was always a spectacle, but not a surprise to either of us. We were rounding this southern exposed bar when we saw what appeared to be a large brown bear on all fours, viewing it from its hindquarters, working this bar, apparently digging clams. At the time, I estimated the yardage between us and it at, say, 200 or so yards. Our speed at the time was only 4 miles per hour, and the motor was idled down, running extremely quietly at the time. Mind you, we had rounded a bend, so to speak, looking at the animal's rear, with it having neither seen nor heard us as of yet. As we continued our troll, we were closing the gap on this bear to the point where we would pass it on our starboard side, at which point it would be only 60 or maybe 70 yards off the side of our boat. We could see from the mess that the bar was in that it had been working it quite rigorously for some time when my father said, "That's some mangy-looking critter, son." I was thinking the same thing when he said it. There was something strange about its shape and posture on the bar, and its fur didn't look right either now that we were closer. Just at the point we were both thinking and saying this about its appearance, this thing jumped up and turned to face us in a split second, looking directly at us, now standing on 2 legs in the middle of the sandbar. It wasn't a bear at all, but rather a hair-covered, tall creature. My father said, "That's a Bigfoot, son." This thing took about 6 rapid leaps off the bar and disappeared into the trees on the island. Retrieving our lines, my father turned the boat about, moving closer to the bar for a look-see at where it had been working and where it went. There was no sign of it, and we weren't going to stop and look either. This creature looked like a 7-foot-tall center on a basketball team. Tall, muscular, and lanky. Its arms were incredibly long, and when it turned to look at us, appeared like a wrestler sizing up its opponent for a takedown, holding its arms out and away from its sides. The 6 or so steps it took were more like hops, each one spanning what appeared to me to be 10 or 12 feet based on what we could see now on the surface of the bar. To me, it looked like a gigantic hair-covered man with dark skin and eyes, mostly covered with scraggly hair. I must say that over the years, my father having now passed on, whether we were together or alone, the pushback from those we had spoken to about this was incredible. Most just shaking their heads, not even willing to engage in a conversation about it, or discounting what we had said by saying it must have been something else. How could this be anything but a Bigfoot, having now heard the description for yourself? What do you think of that, Kev?
Pretty cool, man. I can see that happening, too. As you know, I've seen the big brown bears or grizzlies up in Alaska clamming in the mud at low tide, and it's amazing to see them digging big clams, smacking them open and eating them. Like, you just, until you see it, you wouldn't believe that bears are clammers. So I could see coming along in a boat and saying, "Oh, look at the bear clamming," and then, whoa, thing stands up and it's a Sasquatch. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's incredible too how the bears have. In other words, how can you possibly limit how a Sasquatch could find things to eat relative to a bear clamming, a bear
no
catching
doubt about
salmon,
it.
a
Yeah.
bear eating berries or root vegetables?
Yeah.
It's totally within the realm of possibility.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
So I have no problem, And we see on a lot of these shows, they say, well, if an area can sustain a bear, it can certainly sustain a Bigfoot, and it's true.
No doubt about it.
So that's just incredible, man. Can you imagine trolling along for some salmon or whatever they're trolling for over there, and suddenly you see this thing, and like he said, they had seen him before, so it was no shocker. But then having this thing stand up and spin around looking at you?
No, that's the really shocking part.
Woo! Oh,
Like,
my God.
whoa, that's not a bear. What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it can't swim. Throttle it up, Dad.
Exactly. Don't look back. We got to go.
That's when you need that 150 horse Merc.
Yeah, why do we need that 150 horse? This is why we need it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, what do you think? You want to do number 2?
Yeah, why not? Let's do
Yeah,
it.
it's a shorty, and I picked these 2 short ones just for that reason. Now, I have to tell you, when I hear some of these encounters firsthand, it starts to make me think, what exactly are we dealing with in regards to these Bigfoot creatures? And this following testimony was given to me by a fellow named Wallace Cronin, a resident of the state of Wyoming. This is what Wallace had to say about his granddad's encounter. To start with, Bill, as you already know, my father and my granddad have both passed, and I am 81 years old myself. This story was passed on from Dad to me, my granddad having passed when I was only 3 years old. My dad and I had been to Granddad's old homestead many times, but it wasn't until I was about 12 or so, as I recall, that one day while we were up there for a few days, my dad walked me through what happened to Granddad in the late 1800s. By the way, this homestead or house was nothing but a 15 by 20 foot shack with 2 holes in the side that were windows covered by boards on hinges that could be opened and latched. There were no screens. The door was built out of planks with a swinging latch on the outside and a plank across the inside to keep anything from pushing the door in. There was a small potbelly stove in the corner, the chimney of which my dad had repaired when I was younger on another outing. On this particular day, my dad and I were shooting some cans with a .22 cal, when out of the blue he starts telling me that Granddad shot a hairy man here many years ago. At the time, I had no idea what a hairy man was and began to ask questions as my dad unraveled what was to be quite the tale. He told me Granddad had first encountered this hairy man spying on him through the trees and bushes, and not knowing exactly what it or he was, causing no harm to him, just left him alone. He told my dad that over time the hairy man started to throw sticks at him when he was around, but never came into the open to be fully seen. He said over time this hairy giant had started to become more aggressive, showing itself to Granddad at a distance, grunting, growling, and making gestures with its body, much like a wild monkey would. Granddad had gone out hunting one day, returning to the cabin in the afternoon to find the front door broken in and the stovepipe ripped from the pot belly inside. He said that the pipe, which wasn't that strong, had been smashed up and crinkled beyond repair, Granddad having decided at that point to do something about it. In the weeks following, the same creature was slapping the outside of the cabin at night, and he could smell it when it was there, saying that it stunk badly. My dad said Grandpa owned an old Henry rifle, which he now kept loaded alongside of his bed, expecting fully to use it when the time was right. One morning, a loud howl awoke Granddad, coming from outside of the cabin. The windows could only be opened from the outside, and he couldn't see out, shy of opening the door, which he did. As he cautiously opened the door, at about 30 yards in front of him stood the hairy man, which upon seeing him started to romp about, throwing its hands in the air and growling. Granddad, said my father, raised his rifle and shot the creature, knocking him to the ground. Within seconds, my dad said, the creature leapt to its feet, running off into the woods, never to be seen or heard of again. This was told to me in the 50s, long before anything that we now know of in regards to Bigfoot. Granddad called it what it was, a huge hair-covered man-like beast, roaming the timber of northern Wyoming. These creatures have been around a lot longer than most choose to believe, in my opinion, and who knows how many people have encountered them through the centuries, the likes of which we will more than likely never know. How's that, Kev?
Very cool. I like them both, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, just two bizarre kind of in and out encounters. Well, the second one was certainly an encounter. To me, the first one was more what I would call a sighting.
Right.
Really no interaction other than the creature spinning around and then leaping off the bar into the woods.
Right.
But this guy apparently was up there like some old miner hunter dude. Maybe it was just a getaway. We don't know much about this cabin. It doesn't sound like it was viably being lived in, but who knows? I don't know.
Right. And did he say when that was?
Well, the grandfather.
Oh, that's right. He was already, 85 or 90 or whatever?
Well, in the 1880s.
Oh, okay. So a long time ago.
This happened to the granddad. And the guy telling me the story is 81.
That's what I meant. Like the guy telling the story is 80s, and his grandfather it happened to. Yeah.
Right. And his father had already passed away as well. So
right.
This is an old-time story, generational. He had said that his grandfather died when he was like 3 years old. So
okay.
I don't know what memories you have of Grandpa when you're 3, you know?
Not a lot.
So, kind of interesting, though, huh?
Oh, I love it. Good, great accounts. Great accounts.
Yeah, and people, I don't know. You know, folks, I always say, if you've seen something, say something. And I'm always at the ready to hear from the next individual, which happens quite frequently. Again, you can contact us at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com and hit the contact button. And just drop me a line, you know.
And by the way, Bill, what's better than one account? 2 accounts.
2 accounts.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah, you know, I don't need to embellish anything. I like details, and I dig for details when I talk to people. I like to know the how and the why and how you got there and what's your life like and where do you work and where were you when this happened, what was the weather like. But if it's not there, I'm not going to dig and prod, you know.
Yeah.
Some things in their simplicity are perfect just the way they are, you know.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, super cool.
Just like eating a carrot cake All you need is the right ingredients, and it's perfect.
Wait a minute. I could go for a piece of carrot cake.
Me too, man. One of my favorite things in life.
You know, you didn't know that. That's one of my favorite cakes as well.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm not a big cake person, but I love carrot cake, especially with some walnuts in it.
Well, it's got to have walnuts.
I know, but sometimes they make it without walnuts.
Maybe they're cheap.
Creepy bastards.
No, I mean, a good carrot
Maybe they're
cake
werewolves.
Yeah, maybe they're a werewolf or Borneo man. What was that guy's name?
The wild men of Borneo.
I'm trying to remember their names again.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
But Bill, you gotta call me when you see their pictures. It's Wayno, but not like Wayno. This is Waino and Plutonor.
Okay. Plutonor.
But wait till you see them in their outfits. Oh my God.
Okay.
You're going to be like, oh my God, I got to call Kev.
Incredible, though, huh? The guys were knocking down $200,000 a year back then.
Back then, yeah.
So people were paying, whatever they were paying to see these freak
$6
shows.
million today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah.
For a freak show. But I mean, a 45-pounder that could go up to somebody that weighed 300 pounds in the audience and pick them up over their head.
Yeah.
If you were a 300-pound person, muscle man, it would be hard to pick up somebody in the audience that weighs 300 pounds.
Extremely difficult. Yeah, it'd be extremely difficult.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a weightlifter, that would be hard to do.
Yeah. Usually those things are practiced.
No, these guys are like Bam Bam from the Flintstones.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. And there's two of them that look like one another, and they're both freaks. And I don't throw that term around loosely. Wait till you see the picture, folks. Yikes.
Yeah, judge for yourself.
Yeah, you tell me. You write me a little note at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com and tell me they're not freaks. I'm all ears.
Right. If you don't think they're freaks, just give us another descriptive.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Funny stuff.
So what do we have in our listener mail?
Yeah, we got some good listener mail. The first letter comes in from June. And June is in San Antonio, Texas. Where she's probably carried more gun than she thinks she's going to need, I'm guessing.
Don't you know it?
But she says, hey, Bill and Kevin. Hope y'all are well. I love listening to y'all at bedtime. We have coyotes in the woods behind us, so you can imagine hearing them howl and listening to Bigfoot Terror in the Woods is the perfect way to settle in. June, you're our kind of woman. That is awesome. And Bill, I have coyotes by my house, and man, like the one time they were in the driveway screaming, I thought somebody was getting killed out in the driveway. And I hear you, June. Like, that is creepy, especially if you're listening to Bigfoot Terror in the Woods and some of our more creepy stories at the same time.
Yeah, well, you just crack open a can of Greg's Dogman beer.
Dogman beer. There you go.
and listen to your coyotes and Bigfoot Terror in the Woods. Yeah.
And June says, I love your senses of humor and the creepy tales. And she says, speaking of creepy, have y'all heard of the rake? Wait until you see those images online. Total creep fest. Maybe a show about that creepy bastard, as Bill says. And that's definitely one for which you want to have more gun than you think you'll need. Love y'all, June. So, Bill, you told me about the rake, too, going back a couple of years. And, folks, I'm pretty sure the rake is a fake thing, but it appears real when you look at it on the internet. And I don't know this for sure. Like, no one knows what's fake and what's real. But there is a horror genre on the internet called creepypasta. And I know that sounds like ravioli that comes to life or something, but no, it's called creepypasta. And they say it comes from the term copy and paste, meaning like people write this genre, this creepy genre, and they copy and paste it around the internet, and then other people write about it, and people come up with images and stuff like that. And today, like in the Urban Dictionary, it's called creepypasta. And I think the rake is part of creepypasta, but I'm not sure. So any of you know anything else about the rake and can tell me that it's not creepypasta, not definitively, of course. Who the heck knows definitively? But write us a note. Write us a note at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com. Contact us. Because I've been looking at the rake for like 3 or 4 years, and it's definitely creepy, but I think it might be just something that came out of horror fiction.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not a horror movie person at all. I've never been. I don't go to those movies. I don't see them. But that doesn't mean that I'm naive to some of the things that are being shown. And today, there's no end to the realism of these created beings or entities or monsters or demons or whatever you want to call whatever's being shown. It wouldn't surprise me at all if these rake pictures were generated, CG.
Oh, yeah.
So, and made to look very real in the moment,
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
This isn't the days of Flash Gordon with spaceships flying across the set with strings on them.
Strings on them, yeah.
And a 4th of July sparkler hanging out of the back that you could see burning
down. No, and this, by the way, I'm not here to say like this is done in a way to be fraudulent or tricksters. I think it's just done to write good horror stories. You know what I mean? And different people chime in with it. It's not necessarily meant to be believed to be real, but then when you just catch it like mid-story, mid-sentence, so to speak, mid-chapter, and you can think that it's real, but I think it's written to be fiction, and just creepy fiction.
Yeah, and you may be right, Kevin. June, thanks a lot for writing in.
No, definitely thanks for writing in.
Yeah, we're not looking to shoot you down.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying, because we get a lot of requests for the rake, and when I have looked at it, but somebody chime in out there and tell me, again, I'm not going to debate you. Just tell me, like, no, I think it's real because of this. That's fine. Okay. I'm in.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sounds good to me, man. Thanks, June.
Cool. Thank you, June. It's fun letter, too. All right, we're going to go across the pond to Great Britain from Bertrand.
Huh.
And Bertrand writes, "This is a wonderful podcast." So obviously Bertrand's brilliant. Or as they say on the Guinness commercials, brilliant! Bertrand writes, "Two brothers and two very different mindsets." By the way, Bertrand, you can say that again. He says, "I'm attracted to the diversity of topics, all of which are presented concisely within the time restraints of the show. From your speech, I can ascertain that WJ is the Bigfooter and KJ is the newcomer, so to speak." That's correct, too, Bertrand. How did this unlikely tandem come together for this show, and what sold WJ on the Bigfoot creature? Nothing but the best for the two of you. Godspeed, Bertrand. P.S. Don't change a thing.
Interesting, yeah?
So what do you say, Bill? What sold WJ on the Bigfoot creature?
Well, I've spoken about this before. I always thought and always will believe that the Patty film was a legit filming of a real creature. And, I mean, right from the get-go, having seen that, it never left my mind. I'm not saying it was at the forefront, but when I saw that, it was like, wow. That thing is wandering around out there somewhere, and if there's one, there's more than one,
Absolutely.
So that was the beginning, I mean, for me. And then as we move forward, particularly when the internet came about and we could really get more chatter. Because let's face it, Kev, if you went to the Sachem Public Library, you weren't finding any books on Bigfoot.
No, you had to, and even if you searched the microfilm back in those days, I don't think you were finding any stories on Bigfoot.
Yeah, it was, the phenomena really started to go. What would you say, Kev? Maybe mid-'70s into the 80s?
I was going to say, Bill, because I think mid-'70s, I was a kid, and I remember sitting in the Jerry Lewis movie theater in Lake Ronkonkoma, and they had on Leonard Nimoy. I think it was a predecessor to the TV show In Search Of, and it was like a short in front of one of the movies that I went there to see as a little kid. And he was showing the Patty film and talking about it. And I remember seeing that. And, of course, when it's on the big screen, too, you were like, whoa, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were distracted in any way when you were sitting in a movie theater when you were 7 or 8 years old, And I remember seeing that and thinking, like, whoa, that's something.
Yeah. And the second part of the question was, how did we get together for this? Well, really, that was pretty much an invitation by me, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm the techie of the two, and Bill was like, hey, what do you think of this whole podcast thing? And I had listened to podcasts, but I didn't know anything about how to put them together. And then I said, yeah, I could help you with that, but I didn't know help you with that meant to be on the podcast. So, but it's been fun. It's a cool way for my brother and I to definitely touch base at least once a week, usually more than once a week, to talk about, other Bigfoot and other oddities and cryptids in the news and the accounts that he's going to cover and stuff like that. So it's definitely a pretty cool way to hang out with your brother when you're 600 miles apart.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, if you've never heard this from us before, Kev and I live two really diverse lifestyles and work scenarios. It's very difficult for us to get together more than once a week to do a podcast. And we're kind of thankful that we do what we do. And, I know people have written into us and said, hey, guys, how about 2 or 3 a week or whatever, and it's right now it's beyond the realm of possibility.
No. And some people, like other podcasters we talk to, right, Bill? They're like, oh, you should record 5 at a time, and we can't. We have a hard time getting together to do 1 at a time. I mean, once in a blue moon, we do 2 at a time, and that feels like a miracle. So But like you said, we're running in different circles, 600 miles apart, and it's great to get together, and we love hearing from you, and it really fuels us to hear that you guys are enjoying it so much out there at times. And, maybe some episodes you enjoy more than others, but overall, you're all enjoying it so much, and we love that. That keeps us going.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, Bill. So that's it for this week. That's our last letter that we'll cover. And you folks out there, you've been giving us great 5-star reviews and written reviews. So please, if you can, get out there on your favorite podcast player and give us like a happy written review of why you love us, and give us 5 stars, because it brings more listeners to the podcast. And by getting more listeners, we can stay on schedule, which you all love, and continue to increase the quality of the podcast.
Yeah, and thanks again for listening, folks. And by the way, if you live in Tennessee, or you plan on wandering around in the hill country of Tennessee, besides having to contend with the possibility of the Bell Witch and now a werewolf, you better remember one thing, my friend. Always carry more gun that you think you're gonna need. Sleep tight.